imagining what my life would look like. I think I did maybe imagine more out in the stream, hands-on environmental work, which I do still get to do some of that. But I think with my career in consulting, I found a lot more kind of behind the scenes working on the design. I think in my head I pictured saving the world out in nature and everything. But then I realized that you can save the world from a computer screen as well, and from a construction site and all these other places.
Welcome back to another edition of my podcast. Once again, we're going to be talking with an individual who I have a pretty deep history with and who I find personally very impressive in a lot of ways. And I think you will find her impressive as well, which is the reason I've asked her to join us in this podcast today. Laura Wilson. Laura and I guess, really first met back when you were coming in as a freshman, and she got involved with the Engineers Without Borders chapter that I happen to be faculty advisor for, and we have continued through that process and following and processes following that. And I think she's got a really great story that I think you're going to find impressive, inspirational. And now that I've embarrassed her to the point where she's almost blushing, Laura, welcome. Glad you could be with us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me to join.
What I'd like to start off with, because I think in some ways you have a little bit of a unique story. You come from an engineering family, but Dad happens to be a chemical engineer, and somewhere along the line, you turned to the light side as opposed to the dark side, and pursued a civil engineering degree. Could you share with us a little bit about why civil engineering?
Yeah. So, like you said, both my parents actually are chemical engineers by trade. So, I grew up knowing that engineering was definitely an option for a career. And I pretty quickly realized that I enjoyed math and science and, that part of school. So, it seemed like engineering probably would be a good route for me. But then I took chemistry and I did not enjoy that as much. So, I knew I wasn't planning on pursuing chemical engineering. Um, but I had an amazing physics teacher, an amazing environmental science teacher in high school, and so that kind of the physics definitely solidified my interest in engineering, and then the environmental science. I thought, I maybe would go into ecology or environmental science or something along those lines. But then as I kept exploring options, I found out about environmental engineering. So I figured that kind of combined two of my interests and started looking into that. I had a great opportunity to go to an engineering camp in Mississippi State the summer before my senior year of high school and explored some biological engineering, but then kind of switched over and started looking more into civil. And ever since then, I've been pretty set on going with civil and definitely happy with that decision.
Excellent. Well, it's interesting how a class moves person in a direction or not. Of course, as an environmental engineer, you ended up having to take a little more chemistry than you
Yes.
might have otherwise taken, and so you didn't exactly get away from it. And my youngest daughter kind of moved away from civil engineering because of physics, and she moved to an area where she had to take more physics than she would have if she'd stayed with civil engineering. But it's really a matter of finding what it is you want to do, and once you get that passion, once you get that vision, once you set yourself on that path, there's no stopping you. Yeah, you keep on moving, and you're, I think, exemplary in that fact. After getting the degree, and you moved into consulting and have moved into other things, but when you first came out with the degree, did you find that the civil engineering degree led you into a career that was what you thought it was going to be? I mean, or
Yeah.
did you find? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I think in a lot of ways it did, especially once I, started getting more into the civil engineering focused classes in college. I think, the career I started out in, wasn't a huge surprise to me. I think one thing that wasn't exactly what I expected, I think, especially in high school when I was researching majors and imagining what my life would look like, I think I did maybe imagine more out in the stream, hands-on environmental work, which I do still get to do some of that. But I think with my career in consulting, I found a lot more kind of behind the scenes working on the design. I think in my head I pictured saving the world out in nature and everything, but then I realized that you can save the world from a computer screen as well, and from a construction site and all these other places. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but not once I got into that, I was really happy with where I found myself and my place in the world, I guess.
Right. Well, and as you say, there's really a lot of different ways the degree can push you or provide a foundation, good engineering term, to move forward. The diverse background in terms of water resources and environmental engineering and process, as well as the other aspects of civil engineering, certainly support you in moving forward. If you want to be outside, you can. If you want to be inside, you can. You can do either or both, and I think that manifestation gives some positive attitude or positive perspective as to what people in this profession have and can do. You're not stuck doing the same thing all the time. You can create and be impactful. And yes, with the technologies, the advancements of technology today, the computer is becoming an increasingly essential tool. So mastering it in the ways needed is part of that process. In terms of your undergraduate career, then, did you feel like that it provided you with all of the skills you needed, or was there something that you would have liked to continue or had provided in a formal academic environment?
Yeah, I think my undergraduate education definitely set me up well for going into consulting or any other field that I could have chosen. I think, one thing that I maybe was surprised about or expected was coming out of school knowing all of these specifics about specific design problems or specific pieces of equipment or, anything that I'd be working on and design on. But really what school sets you up for is being able to problem solve and kind of dig into a solution. You don't come out of school immediately knowing how to design a wastewater treatment plant, but you understand the concepts and know how to find the tools you need to continue on in that design. So I think my undergraduate degree in civil engineering absolutely set me up for that and helped prepare me for those skills I needed to move forward in my career.
Well, you, as a result of your undergraduate education and the things that you were pursuing, the knowledge you wanted to gain, you did move into graduate school. Um, why did you just not go on? I mean, with what civil engineers are making as starting salaries, why would you want to stay in school and work as a graduate researcher, a graduate student?
Yeah, so I did end up staying at Mississippi State for my master's degree, and that was a great decision for me. One of the reasons why I decided to stay is that I got involved in some undergraduate research at Mississippi State, and I had the opportunity to continue on with some of that research and work on some really cool projects. I did get to do a lot of the hands-on type work that I was interested in, collected a lot of water samples, did a lot of work in the lab, and things like that. Um, and kind of got to focus on some more specific issues that I was really interested in, including agricultural engineering and best practices for that. So I think my graduate degree really helped kind of enhance what I had learned in undergraduate and helped kind of hone, especially my research skills, and continue on in my foundation of problem solving and kind of digging into a specific topic and working to find a solution.
Okay, so so as you then moved into the consulting environment, um, I know that as a result of COVID and other factors, you've had the opportunity to develop a homework, office work environment. Um, could you explain to the listeners a little bit about how that transition has worked for you and how you feel about it? Would you have felt better if you were 100% office work or 100% homework, or have you been able to craft a work environment that worked really well for you?
Yeah, so my first, right out of school, I started in a job that was, completely in person, went in every day. And I enjoyed that. It definitely helped me, especially so early on in my career, be right there next to my supervisor and other coworkers and be able to just hop in their office if I had any questions. And then about a year into my first job is when we went into quarantine. So I was fully remote for a while after that. So that
Mhm.
was definitely an adjustment, but I think it kind of helped that pretty much the whole world was doing that as well. So, you just kind of had to adjust. And I think it was difficult to move to that so early on in my career, especially since I was used to being able to just knock on my boss's door and ask a question. But, then that turned into just messaging her on Teams instead. So, you definitely learn to adapt. And my group of coworkers did a really great job throughout quarantine to, stay in touch, even not just necessarily about work related things, but maintain a personal relationship as well. And then we after quarantine restrictions lifted, we pretty much went back full time in the office with a little more flexibility than we had before, just since we were all used to working remotely. And at first, I was honestly a little bit disappointed that we were all going back in the office because I'd gotten used to, being with my dog all day and things like that. But I very quickly realized that in office was probably better for me. Um, and all that to say, now I am actually in a fully remote job. So I've gone back and forth a lot, but my current position, everyone's remote, so it's kind of back to the oh, everyone's doing it. So it's not like there's a bunch of my coworkers in an office together and I'm just, in my house alone. Um, so anyways, all of that to be said, I do think my thoughts on working from home versus working in the office. For me personally, I think office was best, especially like I said early on in my career. I had an amazing group of coworkers in the office, and it was great to see them every day, commiserate when we were working on a tough project together, celebrate when we had wins, and I think that really helped me grow my confidence in my abilities in civil engineering, and just I felt so comfortable reaching out to them.
I'm going to drill down to a statement that you made that you felt like the office was a better place for you, dog notwithstanding. And we won't even talk about the idea of taking the dog with you to work.
Yeah.
So that's the best of both worlds. Uh,
Yeah.
and as you know, I too am a dog person and have debated taking the dog, though I don't think my dog would have done real well at the office. So another story. But for you, I'm hearing, and correct me, expound, whatever. Uh, I'm hearing what you're saying is that for you, first off, the idea of having human resources to bounce ideas off, and then other human resources, members of the team that you could, as you put it, commiserate or celebrate with as appropriate, was a big aspect of being in the office. Is this the reason why you frame it that that's the environment that's best for you? Or were there other aspects of working in the office that you just didn't feel that you could get working at home remotely or in isolation, even more so?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it's mostly the human interaction. I still am able to get some of that remotely because of course we have so much technology to be able to stay connected with people all around the world. But for me, I think a big part of it was that I moved to a city where I didn't know anyone. I lived alone, so going into the office, it really was more about forming those relationships and having that face to face human interaction for me. And then definitely, I think my learning style, it definitely helped support the ways I learn best, being able to just go into my boss's office or sit in the conference room and go over things together. So
Yeah,
that was a big part of it too
yeah,
for me, I think.
yeah. I understand. I'm more of a visual audio learner than sit down and read a book.
Mhm.
Uh, in part well, just for a variety of reasons. Again, this isn't about me. This is about you. But I certainly empathize with what you're saying. What I'm hearing you say is that you're kind of a people person, and as such, in the at least in the context of a lot of what you're interested in, a lot of what reinforces your value set and your personal, but not integrity as much as just your personal value, is that interface with people, knowing that you are having impact with people, that you're engaged with people, and they're engaged with you. Is that fair to say?
Oh, definitely, yeah, and that's actually one thing that, I think has drawn me to civil engineering too. It's kind of in the name, civil, we deal with people, and, that's kind of I didn't mention this earlier, but, asking about, like, if the job was what I expected. I think one thing that was surprising for me is how much our job really is so people oriented, and you really do a lot of face to face interaction, not just with coworkers or your supervisor, but with clients, the community, contractors on a construction site. And I think that's definitely something that's one of the reasons why I've really enjoyed my career so far, and why I'm happy that I went into civil engineering, is that I've been able to use my skills and build on my people skills to help projects run smoothly, or help get to whatever final solution we need to get to. So that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, totally understand. It works same for me. While certainly individuals can crawl into a cubby hole and work behind a
Yes.
computer, or go into a lab and work like that, or isolate themselves from human contact, which just doesn't. I don't understand. Apparently, you don't either, and that's okay. But there, you have a diverse environment, an opportunity to build a career in a way that you want to. You're not forced to stand on a production line watching steam gauges work. You're not sitting behind a computer monitoring or operating or designing or whatever all the time. You kind of blend. If you want, as I said earlier, if you want to go out in the field, you can go out in the field. If you want to stay inside, you stay inside, depending on the temperature of the project or whatever it is. So a lot of diversity in the field. And the other reason I wanted to emphasize that personal contact is again goes back really to our early relationship with Engineers Without Borders. The idea that through an organization like that, working within the framework of an organization like that, you have impact on people. But more importantly, if you're engaged as you were, particularly engaged in going to the project, working in the project, having import on what the project was, both in design and development and planning and staging, but also in delivery. I, that just is I think, a really important part of our relationship. I guess if in that context, could you summarize what you feel like you gave and what you got from being involved as a pre-professional and then now as a professional working with Engineers Without Borders? And we haven't talked about your job change, but we will hear in just a second.
Okay.
This is my
Yeah. So
segue into that.
oh, perfect. Yeah, so Engineers Without Borders has definitely shaped pretty much everything I've done with civil engineering and in my life in general. Before I even started looking into colleges, I had heard some presentation about kind of similar work, and that really got me interested. So I started looking into colleges that did have Engineers Without Borders chapters. And I actually didn't realize Mississippi State had one when I was first looking. So that was disappointing for me because I thought, and this was, junior, even sophomore year of high school. Because I had always wanted to go to Mississippi State. And I was like, oh, maybe we could start a chapter. And then right before, when I really started seriously trying to make decisions about schools, it was my senior year, and I saw that they had just started a new chapter. So that pretty much sealed my decision. So EWB was even a part of my college decision. And then once I got to state, I got to join the chapter. And like you'd mentioned, I came in as a freshman. And since it was a newer, smaller chapter, I got to get involved really quickly and dive right in. So that was an amazing opportunity, getting to travel the summer after my freshman year for the assessment trip, and then so getting to really see the project completely through, I think, was had a huge impact on me. So I, got to go on the trip, assess it, meet with the community, and then work through the years on the different on design, and then the implementation trips. Um, and I think that definitely solidified that I had made the right decision in civil engineering to be able to see the kind of impacts that our work can have.
Well, well, you certainly had a baptism of fire. For those that don't know you or me personally, and as a little bit of backstory, Laura came in as a freshman. The club had just been reapproved. We actually set the club up in 2000, early 2005, and then a certain event on the Gulf Coast called Katrina came in, and all of our attentions went to helping the people on the coast rather than working through EWB. So 5 years passed, and we were trying to get the chapter back in operation, and then you came in as a freshman in 2012, and 2013 we went through that process of doing the assessment on a project that we actually took over from another university, which, as I mentioned earlier, was in Zambia. And it was an interesting first year because we had a little bit extra time in places, and we got to do some things. You and my daughter went on that trip to help out. She had just graduated, and went on that trip, and a couple others did as well. And we got a chance to go down the Zambezi River, where I almost got killed by a hippopotamus. Not my fault. Uh, Hippopotamus' fault, if I want to point some fingers. And the day before, I'd almost gotten killed by a bull elephant going down to the Zambezi River to see the sunset and a few other odds and ends, and all because I was wearing a Zambian soccer shirt. Uh, yeah, it is. It was good times, and yes, we ended up putting in water for something neighborhood of 8 to 10,000 people. The number's hard to manage, but we now know, at least in several wells that were put in, people are coming from literally tens of kilometers away to get water that wasn't otherwise available if it hadn't been for work you and the other students did. And you need to be applauded for that, because it was impactful, and it's sustainable, and it's important work. So again, I keep applauding you for this. You made a career change here recently and took on work in a way with a nonprofit and continue to work with EWB. Could you kind of summarize really why you kind of walked away from what you were doing? You were having a successful career in consulting. Not that this new career isn't equally successful, maybe even more so, but what motivated you to make this shift, and how easy was it to make it with the background that you had?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in exploring the world of nonprofit work ever since my involvement with Engineers Without Borders. Because, like you said, being able to see the impacts that were possible through that NGO and through Engineers Without Borders was really impactful to me, and I wanted to be able to continue doing that kind of work. So I really enjoyed the about 5 years I had in consulting and learned so much. And it has been a little bit of a tough transition because I did enjoy the work I was doing in consulting and everything, but I just heard about this opportunity to work through a nonprofit, and decided to go for it since that's something that I've always wanted to do. So it is the transition, I think, has been a little bit difficult just because I'm switching from doing more like heavy design work to more kind of planning and really working kind of more on the utility side versus working more on the consulting side. So we pretty much serve as an extension of these smaller utilities. Um, but I mean, it's been great, and it's only been a couple months, so I'm definitely still getting used to it, still getting a feel for the kind of work I'll be doing. But it is really neat to think about, how much I've, always said I wanted to work for a nonprofit and go that route, and now I have the opportunity to do it while continuing to work with Engineers Without Borders, like you said. So yeah, it's been really cool. I think college Laura would be excited with where I've ended up.
Ah, and that is an excellent way to put it. That is an absolutely excellent way, because you always wonder, you look back 5, 10 years and go, did I make the right choice? Yeah, my challenge to you, and I think it's not much of a challenge. My challenge to the people that are listening is that when you have completed what your life, let's just frame it in that broad context, when you've done everything that you're going to do, and as I've often said, even in your presence, when they close the lid, when it's all over, what do you want them to say? What do you want them to say about it? What did you do? What impact did you have? But more importantly, or as important at least, is you want it to transpire in a way that you have no regrets. Or certainly there have been mistakes, but mistakes lead to other things. And so hopefully at the end of the day, there's just no regrets. Live a life of purpose, live a life of success, a life of impact. You're doing all of that. You have done all of that. If you hung everything up right now, you will have been more impactful than a lot of people I know will ever have been, and have lived multiples of years, tens of years more than you, dozens of uh, millennia. Well, not that long. I'm getting carried away. Yeah, my propensity for minor exaggeration, or at least I call it minor. Uh, but so yeah, that this is really good. A question that I get asked when I've talked about what we did in Zambia and some of the other projects I've been involved with that are of this nature is why do you bother working overseas when there's so much to be done here? Do you have an answer for that question?
Yeah, I do think, that's a question I get too, and I think about it a lot. And I think one thing I've thought about is, these communities know what needs to be done. They often know exactly what kind of project they need to implement, or what solutions are needed to solve some of their problems. But the missing piece is just the resources. They're not always able to access the resources they need to be able to complete these projects. So I think that was definitely something that drew me to this kind of work is being able to work with them and learn from them, of course, and their local expertise, and just help provide the resources and anything else we're able to provide to help them reach their end goals, or really being led by the community on kind of what needs to be done. So I think that's one big reason. And then also selfishly, I guess it's exciting to travel and learn about new cultures and things like that. So that was a big piece of it too. And I learned so much from the community and just from traveling in general in college. So it was definitely a really cool experience, and I think that is part of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's really exciting. 17 hours on an airplane, packed in like sardines with no place to go. Yeah. No, I can't wait. Yeah. Sign me up again. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. It is, and it is important that the sacrifices we make to have that impact or don't go without appreciation. I always go back to our friend Leonard, who came and celebrated the second trip we went, and he came out and the community killed the one goat that they had because they didn't have water and they couldn't really raise livestock, and the community brought together food and they barbecued the goat, had a big party, and I'm sitting there going, Leonard, wait a minute, we haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
His answer back was, and he said, "You don't understand the fact that you honored the promise, the fact that you are coming to try, is a bigger gift than having succeeded, because of all the issues that they deal with and all the opportunities they don't have, all the resources they lack." So that made a real impression, obviously, on me, and I know it did you and the others in the group that year and the years that followed. It was impactful. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna take you a little bit farther back down into this because what you've done is effectively move from. I'm going to frame it a little bit differently. You've moved kind of from the design piece at a relatively early stage in your career to the management piece. And manage design, yeah, okay. There's a capstone design requirement in your undergraduate, and you did design and advanced analysis in your graduate degree. Management doesn't normally fit in too much into the formal education. Yet now here you're sitting with some limited experience in managing. Are you how are you meeting the need? Are you taking additional classes? Are you um, drawing on the resources of others in order to develop the management skills that you need?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the combination of all of those things, doing some additional trainings and then learning from my coworkers and others that have been kind of working in this space longer. And I think something that's helped prepare me for this kind of more management role specifically is that I did a lot of construction oversight in my previous job. So while it was pretty heavy on the design, I also did a good bit of construction work. So I think that's helped kind of build some of my skills in not necessarily managing projects, but I guess kind of managing and helping things roll along, and keeping communications flowing and things like that. A lot of the similar things that I'm doing now in this job, I did specifically in construction previously. So I think that's a big part of it. So, not that anyone asked, but I do think that's something that I would recommend anyone going into civil engineering if there's an opportunity to get out on the construction site pretty early in your career. I think that's definitely a great move, and I didn't necessarily even seek that out. It's just kind of how it happened, and I'm definitely appreciative of those opportunities, and I think it has helped set me up for handling management roles a little better.
You have an uncanny way of answering the questions that I formulate in the back of my mind based on
Oh.
what you're saying. So, but well, the issue was one of the things I was going to ask you is this something you planned or is this something you kind of fell into? And you did answer that. Uh, I agree completely. I started out as a construction manager as a co-op and then moved to design and then of course later on academe and did consulting and on a global basis. So the idea of I'm going to use something that my mother, who was an educator, said, which is part of my problem. I've been damaged by my parents, who arguably instilled in me this idea of service is essential. Both of them, a teacher, and my dad was in business, but he was the kind of guy that got up at 4:30 in the morning so he could be on the road by 5 to be at his business by 5:30 so he could cash checks for people going to work, even if they didn't buy anything from him that day. It was all
Oh,
about
wow.
serving and helping others, and that idea of service, just kind of resonates with you. So in this construction management skill development and all that, what they always told me was there's no bad education. uh, Anything new is an opportunity to learn and to embrace the new, embrace this opportunity, especially these days, because as you know firsthand, the environment we live in today is a different environment that we lived in just 10 years ago, let alone 50 years ago or 100 years ago. And that's not just the climate change piece, it's this technological piece. This whole thing about AI and how that's going to fit in and be a tool for us and embracing technology as part of our careers or part of our profession is going to be essential for our success moving forward. So, and then of course, the equity piece, making sure that we recognize the projects we have are about people, and making sure that when we do that, we include all people in that design and get their input and make sure that we're making a better quality of life for all, not just the people at the beginning and end point of our projects. So, very good. I guess we're kind of running out of time. As always, I like to give you, both personally and individual, in terms of the nature of the podcast, a chance to share anything that you'd like to share with the audience about the profession, your career, your life. If you even want to tell the story about me almost getting killed by hippo, uh, just kidding. We'll do that some other time. Go
Perfect.
ahead. Anything you want to share?
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me join. I really enjoyed getting to kind of talk through some of these things. I think one specific lesson learned, I think, in my career so far has been just to absolutely not be afraid to ask questions and to just be more confident in your abilities and what you're working on. Because I think that's something that I struggled with a lot at the beginning of my career. And I think I could have made things a lot easier on myself if I had just recognized that no one comes out of school knowing everything. Most of the time, we really, don't know much specifics about what we're working on. So I think it's just important to, you know, work on building confidence, not, work on not just building all your technical skills, but also your personal skills and your confidence and just be, open to new opportunities and everything that can help you grow with those kind of things. Cause I think that's something I struggled with at first is just doubting myself. And that kind of kept me from doing as much as I could have early on.
Well, and that's an absolutely great point, Laura. You might want to call it the imposter syndrome. The idea
Yes,
is
definitely.
that I don't have the confidence because I'm afraid I'm going to be found out about what I don't know, as opposed to having the confidence to realize I don't know everything, and therefore I'm valuable, I'm important, I'm knowledgeable, I'm capable, but I also have to be informed. And
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
being willing to ask questions and seek answers it helps build further confidence, particularly when you're successful. But it's also about the environment, making sure that you're supported and know that in answering, you're not thought of less or you're not diminished in any way because you don't know the answer today. Now, tomorrow might be a different answer, but we're going to give you at least 24 hours to find out what
Yes.
that answer is.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
great way to put it. Definitely
Yeah.
summarized what I
Well,
was trying to
no, that's
say.
wait, that's you. That's what you said. That's what I heard you say. I hope that's what the
Yeah.
people listening heard you say because it's what I want. One of the things of the many things that you've shared, it's really one of the important things I hope they take away. that it's okay.
Yes.
So, with that said, thanks for your time. I appreciate you sharing yourself so openly and candidly with me. And we've had many conversations like this, and with the people that are listening who neither of us have ever met, as far
Yes.
as we know. But you take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. It was great catching up, and I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Infrastructure Network.